Welcome. On behalf of Kwixand Solutions, I'd like to welcome you to this interesting webinar where you will learn about the importance and power of a discovery session. It is, after all, your roadmap to do a successful strategic transformation. My colleagues, Sebastian and Mike, will be your presenters today, and they will take you through the whole flow and the whole process of doing the discovery procedure, and will also speak directly to your benefits from that. So, first of all, what is the discovery phase? A little bit about the structure and the approach. Then we'll touch on why the discovery phase matters. What are the key activities that you will go through in the discovery phase? And we will touch on system versus people. Who's working for whom? Are we slaves of a system or are we in charge of the system? Then you need to know a little bit about strategic planning for change. Change isn't something you can just, that will just come about because you get a new system. Change is something that's inherent in culture, in business processes, and in people. Then we'll go through communicating the value of the discovery and gaining the buy-in from the stakeholders across your organization so that everybody sees the value and go, yeah, it's worth investing in. And last, we'll give you a couple of case studies so you can see how other companies benefited from the discovery. And now, over to you, Sebastian. Please take it away.
Thanks, Jens. Wow, what a turnout we have today. Thanks everybody for joining. So let's talk about the discovery phase. What are we looking to do here? So we're gathering information from our stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders, the decision makers, the contributors? What expectations have been communicated within the organization? It's important that everyone is on page, not just the team that you're working with throughout the discovery process. And you want to understand what messaging has been communicated across the organization in terms of the discovery and what the end result is going to be. So we'll conduct a current state assessment. So what are the current processes in place on both the department and organizational levels? What challenges or inefficiencies exist today that the system or processes are based on? Are there any regulatory compliance requirements, security or access controls that are in place that need to be taken into consideration? What software solutions are being used? Are there disparate systems cross-platform, or are we looking at an integrated solution that's working as one? Is the customer migrating from on-premise or to a cloud-based solution? That can always be tricky from a change management and user adoption perspective. We want to establish and understand the business requirements. So we'll ask questions like, what are the strategic requirements? Is the customer looking to increase customer retention, as an example? Real-time reporting? Maybe they're looking at market expansion. What are the functional requirements? From generating sales invoices or sales orders to increase automation, as an example. Are they looking at cross-platform system integrations if the situation is disparate systems that are being run or operated in silos? What are the non-functional requirements? So things like data encryption, system uptime, maybe even system performance. Do they have metrics where they say certain actions or triggers need to have a response time within X number of seconds, as an example? We want to identify risks. So are existing systems or software subscriptions expiring near term? That can always put pressure on your budget and timeline. Are data backup and recovery protocols established? Is there something in place that the IT team is doing within the organization that you need to take into consideration? Additionally, is there a disaster recovery plan in place where you can extract the data from a given time or date? Are there any conflicting priorities? So many times individual stakeholders have their own needs, wants, and goals. It's imperative that everybody is on the same page and working as one when you work through the discovery phase to ensure you have a unified team and everybody is looking to achieve the same end result. Is there a change management plan in place? So what are they thinking in terms of user adoption? You're talking about migrating people from what they know into somewhere that they don't know. It's important that the organization has a change management in place, possibly even a change management consultant if they're large enough, just to ensure that there's a successful transition from the current state to the future state. And then it's imperative to define and agree on scope. So, what are the primary goals of the project? What problems are you looking to solve? What's the timeline? So, why the discovery phase matters. So, end users, they seldom get a chance to voice challenges they face when completing day to day tasks. Leaders seldom have the time to actively listen to pain points of their team members. The discovery phase is a platform to bring all of these groups together for collaborative sharing to gain common understanding and a shared vision. The outcome of the discovery sessions allow the stakeholders from a top level to see the challenges across the organization. This affords them the opportunity to align systems and IT priorities. So we're talking about budgets here, right? How are they going to spend their money? For those of us facilitating the discovery phase, the discovery sessions are where we call out the potential for risk. We have an unbiased perspective when we're coming in, which leads us or lends itself to seeing things that we others wouldn't see. So those users who are entrenched in the day-to-day can't identify these risks because they're unable to see 30 feet in the air. So we can identify these risks early on, which provides ample runway to formulate mitigation strategies and assign ownership to users. The discovery phase is the time when the proverbial sandbox is defined, what is included, and equally as important, what is excluded from the solution design based on the business requirements. And finally, let's talk money, right? We all have to talk money. What does it cost to free up resources so they can focus on strategic aspects of the business? The outcome of the discovery sessions empower you to define a budget that can be presented to your client and resources involved to make future state a reality. Key activities in the discovery phase. So what are we doing when we actually get into it? So let's explore specific examples of how the discovery phase entails for us here at Kwixand. How do we foster stakeholder engagement? That's a key one. Well, we always start with a kickoff meeting. We introduce all team members, set expectations on what the expected results should be. This is the time when we foster enthusiasm by rallying our stakeholders and contributors to focus on the opportunities the discovery process represents. We host subsequent sessions where we learn about the organization. What's the company's history, as an example, their lines of business, core focus, overview of communication and process flows. Very important to understand if they're working together collaboratively or again in silos. This is the time to strengthen relationships by building trust with our customer through collaborative engagement. We have a formalized process for gathering the information we need throughout the discovery process. We provide a comprehensive list of collateral, chart of accounts, financial reporting, even to offline Excel outputs for document formats. We use these outputs in combination with what we learn through the discovery session to map a current state. So once that discovery session or that exercise is completed, we transition into a technical assessment. This can include an architecture review, integration and interoperability for a multi-system platform, technical risks or constraints. Kwixand employs the SWOT methodology for assessing risks. What is SWOT? So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So strengths can be, what does the organization do well, specifically? Weaknesses, where are there areas for improvement based on the information we're gathering through the discovery sessions? Opportunities, so what new or existing technologies or partnerships can be leveraged? And then threats, what are the external pressures on the organization or constraints? A really good example is current state of global economy. So we know what's going on right now in terms of the US's behavior towards the rest of the world. These can put downward pressures on organizations. So we then transition to the meat and potatoes, or beans and rice for the vegetarians out there. The solution design document. We structure the document to capture what we've learned and how that learning translates to the future state. We ensure the objectives, assumptions, and benefits are clearly stated. Very important to set expectations and assign ownership. We talk to Kwixand's project management methodologies and governance best practices. And then finally, we document the solution itself, from data migration to user roles to configuration to financials to document formats. You name it, we're covering it all from start to finish. We'll provide a sample of our solution design document at the close of today's webinar. So who's working for who? You know, too often we hear and see users who are working for their systems versus the systems working for them. You know, this results in users designing their own workarounds, which decrease productivity. You know, who doesn't love Excel, right? I love Excel. It's a great way and probably the most common method to extract data from systems and then manipulate that data. You know, but what do those offline Excel reports result in? You know, we've got multiple users who are managing the same data set, but in silos from one another. So this can often result in, you know, duplicate entry of information, again, decreasing productivity. So the objective of the solution design is to ensure these practices are addressed. We want to identify where people are feeling constrained by their system and then saying, you know what, I'm going to do my own thing outside of the system because that way I feel like I'm actually moving the needle forwards and getting my job done. Again, we don't want to see that. We want to see collaboration within the system versus standalone operations outside of the system. So the objective of the solution design is to present a system or a design that promotes ease of use, affords visibility, and ultimately automation of routine processes and practices. So the insights obtained from the discovery phase help to plan software and process changes. You'll discover or uncover dependencies such as cross-platform system integrations, or departments that are operating in silos. We've provided examples already throughout this deck where we've shown you tangible real life or real world examples that we can all relate to. From there, we'll put together an IT roadmap to address and foster change management. So we'll propose a phased or agile deployment methodology, you know, so starting with an MVP or a minimum viable product for phase one, followed by cross-platform integrations, you know, such as the D365 suite of products, like project services or CRM for sales as an example. You know, that can be your phase two. What you're doing is you're essentially easing the end users into a digital transformation versus shocking them all at once by saying, here's your 15 systems, they're all online, now learn everything, right? You'll find that that easing through the phased approach and the agile approach, where they're seeing the incremental steps forward in the future state, will result in the end them fully adopting the system and feeling comfortable with what they're doing. And you know, your roadmap, it not only builds partnerships for you with your customer, but it gives you forecasted revenue for the duration of the phases. So if you put together an IT roadmap that lasts for 2 years, you now have the ability to say to your own boss, your own organization stakeholders, here's 2 years worth of forecasted revenue that we can now budget and work around within our organization. It's very, very important. So you're seeing a win-win both for your customer as well as yourself and your own company. Okay, so how do you communicate value, you know, and how do you get buy-in, right? Like you've got to get buy-in. So you come forward, you present this massive solution design document, and you say, okay, come sign with us. It's important to keep in mind that that solution design document, the entire process that you've gone through from discovery to solution design is really, it's a standalone, right? That customer can take what you've done and what you've assembled for them, the vision you've presented for the future, and they can really go away with that. It's independent of you and your Microsoft product, if that's what you're offering. They can literally go to any provider and map that process into a solution design with that provider's product. So how do you get buy-in? Because you want to make sure that doesn't happen, right? Well, let's recap what we've covered off in the session. So the discovery phase, it's you're providing evidence-based insights, which is ultimately supporting the change. So it's difficult to argue against change when you have evidence and tangible facts that you've gleaned from their own processes and their own admissions that show that they're inefficient, that show that they're reducing the ability for their resources to contribute to strategic focuses or objectives within the organization. You know, you're creating a narrative within your design that the stakeholders can then take away and present to the decision makers. So your story that you've documented and you've communicated, again using their own facts and their own admissions, is tangible for the stakeholders to go and get buy-in. Again, very difficult even on the board member level to argue fact-based insights for future change. You know, you're highlighting the company's pain points, and then you're showing the gain that they're getting through this transition from current state to future state. Again, that talks to any of the automation routines and the addressing standard routine behavior that's time consuming and resource intensive. Okay, so how do you get there? You know, you're ensuring that your stakeholders are involved throughout the discovery process. We talked about the kickoff and the objective there for us to foster, collaboration, to get the stakeholders on the same page, and then and get people excited about this, right? This isn't something they should be afraid of. It should be something they're excited about. And then you're going to carry that enthusiasm and collaboration all the way through the discovery phase, so that at the end, when you present your solution design document, those stakeholders are raring to go to their whatever, their board members, their senior exec team, to say, look, sign off on this because this is what we need to do. Okay, so I think we're gonna have Mike jump in here. So Mike's been, working with me, working with the Kwixand team throughout multiple discoveries. Mike's going to highlight a couple of use cases that we've got. Mike, did you want to go ahead?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Sebastian. Now, I'd like to walk you through a few cases that illustrate how the discovery phase led to real, measurable improvements. The first is an emergency response firm. In this case, the discovery phase revealed two key issues: poor coordination in the field and outdated systems. These were causing delays and inefficiencies that the team had grown used to. Once we identified those pain points, we introduced standardized workflows tailored to their operations. This brought consistency and clarity to their projects. We also streamlined their time tracking and payroll, two areas that were eating up time and causing errors. The result? Faster processing and fewer headaches for them. In the second case study about a financial services provider, the discovery phase uncovered something different: reporting delays and inconsistent workflows across departments. These issues weren't just slowing things down, they were creating data silos and misalignment. By addressing these, we cut down on manual reporting time and improved the accuracy of shared data. That meant better collaboration and faster, more informed decisions. With this final case study about a steel parts manufacturer, the manufacturer was facing order delays and inventory issues. Discovery revealed that their processes were still largely manual, which was creating bottlenecks. With that insight, we implemented changes that sped up order fulfillment and gave them real-time visibility into inventory. That's a game changer in manufacturing, where timing and accuracy are everything. So, what do these stories have in common? In each case, the discovery phase uncovered the root causes of inefficiencies, things that weren't obvious on the surface. And by addressing those early, we set the stage for smoother implementations and better outcomes. That's the real value of discovery. It turns assumptions into insights and insights into action. I'm going to pass it on to Jens, who will give you more information about Kwixand and how to get in touch with us to get started.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Sebastian. This was a great, insightful webinar. And I believe that after this, you will think more about the importance of going through the discovery with all your processes and all your initiatives. It's not something that can just stand alone and go, oh, we did the implementation. Now we need something more, but we don't want to do discovery. You want to do that every time, bigger or smaller, but you want to go through this. So, questions. I am sure you have a million questions after this, and please send them over to me, and I will have the team work with you and respond to your questions and engage with you and help you getting on the path to a successful discovery. Thank you so much. And don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on YouTube. We're there, and we have a ton of material that will help you stay in the front of everything you're working with. Thank you.